Our story begins in a faraway place with a really dashingly handsome young man, sandwich delivery driver by day, unlucky card game player by night.
Forward. Make sure you sub, make sure you follow, and welcome to the Bazaar.
Welcome to the Bazaar.
Make sure you sub.
So as you guys already saw, they were using actual physical decks during a lot of the early stuff, while they were just trying to come up with concepts for the game. We actually have a version of that intro that we use in some of our old YouTube videos. It's really fun to make, actually.
The game, it was a proper traditional deck builder, but in digital. That is the original concept of the game. It's what we started with. And the goal really for us was to make the best game that we could. So we started looking
and that's still the goal to this date.
Whew,
that's an old version of the game.
So
I wonder if I'm just gonna pause it. I'm gonna pause it occasionally, but immediately, well, okay, so immediately this looks massively different. Like we've got the two decks on either side. We've got like this monster area, and then we can buy from the middle. While some things have changed, this is a cool little rope. While some things have changed, like we don't have any decks anymore, and I mean we don't have a hand, we have a board. There's not like a the buy is split into a completely different fate. So much has changed from this. One thing I do want to see, actually, they obviously have a lot of early concept art for these monsters, and while some of it doesn't look like it really fits, like neither of these are a bit too cartoony, but maybe like Rat King. I could see a colorized Rat King as one of the monsters we fight. And this is what the game looked like. What, maybe 6 months? When was this video released? This video was released, yeah, so roughly 6-7 months ago. This is what the game looked like. This has come so far in so little amount of time. So yeah, it was originally developed to be just a deck building game where you would add cards to your deck, shuffle through it, shuffle that deck, go back through it, put cards in discard, shuffle through, play again.
My name is Ben, and I'm the lead designer on the Bazaar. We started with
Ben was actually, let's go back a couple of frames so you can see his gloriousness. He's made a lot of interesting and very clever choices. We like Ben.
And I'm the lead designer on. They had to do this action. It was 10 inputs for the player to do. Starting on their first.
This is a big problem that a lot of card games have.
If it's your first game,
is, you know, and that's just from like the most basic thing, right? Click, do damage. Hey Ben, thanks for the sub.
You have to read them, understand what they do.
Play them, and then they give
Dominion is a deck building game that they pulled a lot of inspiration from, and it is a deck building game that I absolutely love. Dominion is a lot of fun. Highly recommend.
Pick what you target.
Actually, the Bazaar category exists. Hell yeah, that's why we're here. We're celebrating the release of it by looking at old updates and looking at Reynad when he had no hair. There you go. Look at that. How far he has come. They really have like stripped a lot of the unnecessary stuff away from the game, which is really good, really good.
And on top of that,
coming from like the company I currently work for, we build websites, and a lot of our work goes into designing sites that work well on mobile, but also look incredible on desktop. And they've done it excellently, doing the exact same with the Bazaar.
And then the coins would all play themselves, and you the game without a starting deck.
There were a couple other decisions we made around this time.
Oh god, yeah, the game without a starting deck was horrible.
We decided
where you just like, you had one card, you played it, went into the discard pile, you shuffled it, and it was straight back again, and you just played that same card.
Identifying the...
Yeah, this is the reshuffling I was talking about.
This solved all the problems we had with the coins. It didn't feel confusing to play with for the reasons the coins did, but it did feel
it's the first option, or the first example we can see where they really sort of...
We got rid of the starting deck.
Dumb down is the wrong phrase. If I ever say dumb down, tell me off. But they simplify and extract the important and fun mechanics out of all of the other rubbish that they don't need. But in this case, it did create some confusion with you just having one card that you played like 3 times in a row.
Meaning that this was
so much on this screen.
And on turn 1, I buy 1 card. And on turn 2, what happens? I see this card that I bought, do a weird shuffle animation, fly across the screen, go to my deck for some reason, and then get drawn. And then I play it, I buy a second card, and now these 2 cards get shuffled into my deck, and they get drawn. It's just it's weird why
in this case, it was also hyper important
when there was nothing here.
what first cards you
This is
buy.
very unintuitive to players that aren't already deck building game fans.
I don't recognize
Why
any
is
card
that?
arts in the new Bazaar. They were
Cards
probably
shuffling
scrapped.
between these two zones
Yeah,
for no
yeah, a lot
reason.
of these look like they
It didn't even
were.
look like a
In
deck
fact,
until, like,
hang on, go back. So I recognize this Cold Snap weapon. This was art that was released ages and ages and ages ago. Let's see. Actually, I have a load of old art saved from the Bazaar. The Bazaar, early art. Do I have that one in general? Is it this one? No, but like you can see, this is a similar sort of style. Like they had this early art where they were expecting it to go like this route and away from the items per se. Rinth of Fire, a typo. Oh yeah, Rinth of Fire. Excellent. Yeah, that would be a typo. This is a really, really early build.
Eventually, it'll say like, oh, you own 10 cards in your bag. And you would
Yeah,
just
so at
draw
this
cards
point,
from
they
your
were
bag.
still...
we thought this would simplify.
Just
it,
before
in
this
some
point,
ways
they
it
were
was more
stuck
intuitive.
still on thinking about this as a card game. Like they still had cards on the board, they still had a shuffling mechanic. This pulling things into a bag idea, I don't know if this is where it started or if this is just what happened to make it through onto this video. But this is where they start to think about the game less as a card, like a solid paper card game, and more as a strategy game that uses cards as a mechanic in places. So in this idea, you pull these cards into a bag, and then you draw things out of a bag instead of shuffling a deck of cards. I think this really helped them sort of step away and start to look at the game in a different perspective, and this is really where the innovation begins.
We didn't like
Raynad will ask for all streamers
We
and
wanted
easy
to try and
100k
make the
new
game
users.
not have these.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
wanted to see
it's
if
not going to suffer from the same thing that
the
Artifact
cards
did,
that you pick
where
stay in
you
front
get
of you.
big names to come
Now,
and
if
play,
all the cards stay in
and then
front
none of their followers play
right,
along
obviously
because
the
it costs
problem
20
is
quid to
this
buy
is
the
going to
game.
be a lot of cards going and
The
getting
Bazaar will be free to play.
and the item would break. This way, we can let you.
This is
play
the
cards
next big
directly in
thing they
front
got
of
stuck
you,
on,
but not run into the problem of having
was
infinite
they had this
line of
new
cards that you
innovation,
can
this
attack.
new idea of
At
having
this
this
point,
board where
there was
you
nothing
put
that
cards
really
on. It's kind of
made
like a
these
static
harder.
hand.
They didn't have
You don't have a
draw
deck, you just have a
options
static
or
hand.
anything. So
But
we
how
started
do
going
cards
values
move
and we
out
used
of
the
there?
boards
Why
that
would
we
cards
had.
move out of
Having
there?
durabilities on the items
So
was
durability
really
is the one
helpful
thing
to
they
make the
started
game more
with.
interactive, because now
And they
if
found it
opponent can
really
have a
difficult
card that
to
just directly targets
pivot
yours,
out
it
of
makes it
using
lower its durability by
using
So you
durability.
lose two
I think I love the rarity system. I am really looking forward to seeing this rarity system. It's let me pause this a sec. Yeah, it's gonna feel. So I made a Reddit post just announcing my new video. But I put a comment in there about the information about the new level system that Raynad brought up on stream, because it's not enough for me to make a full video on. So I just thought I was going to mention it. It's going to feel a lot like Auto Battler Rarity, if I'm not mistaken, which may be a bad thing. We'll find out. It depends how they implement it. I was more looking forward to being able to like upgrade stuff at Forge's Forge, getting new things. But we'll see. I mean, I trust them. They've made lots of good decisions so far. I just wonder if this is one case where they weren't, neither side were happy. That this was one case where I think Ben and Raynad were opposed. And I hope they didn't fix that clash just by getting it from Auto Battlers. I hope they do have their own twist on it, their own innovation. But it is very last minute. I don't know how much space they have to innovate. I'm okay with this. It won't quite feel like a auto battler because let's pick an example. Things are easiest to run through with examples. Let's say truffles. Why not? We all love truffles. So the base truffles card, level 1 truffles, every time it triggers in a battle, will upgrade your maximum health by 10. I'm just throwing out random numbers. Not a game dev. I'm talky man. So, level 1, just base truffles. What if you got some... How would they word it? I don't know, like juiced truffles. Some G Fuel truffles or something. The Bazaar gets sponsored by G Fuel, and there are G Fuel truffles. And you can upgrade them at Forger, and she'll just splash some G Fuel on them and cook them a bit more. But these truffles, these are level 2 truffles, every time they trigger, they give you your 10 max health. Maybe they give you 11 max health now, so it does feel a little bit better. But maybe they also give you like 5 shield. Which kind of synergizes, like it's based off of your health. Maybe it's even like 0.1% of your max health as shielding, because it still works off of like max health, something like that. I don't know. But yeah, so my point is that it's still inherently truffles. It's still working with your maximum health. It's still that same idea, but it's just leveled up and rarer. Whereas in the case of Dota Auto Chess or any of the other auto battlers, you could have your level 1 Rockman. I'm going to use blanket terms. But you don't get a level 2 Rockman. You have to get 3 level 1 Rockmans to make a level 2 Rockman. That's not rarer, it's just more powerful. We're talking just strictly rarity level. They haven't said anything about fusion yet. So we don't think we're going to be fusing 3 truffles to make the G Fuel truffle. We're just going to be getting the next tier up. So you're getting level 1 Rockman. If you get 3 of them, nothing special happens. You just have 3 Rockman. Or you could get level 2 Sword Dude. He's stronger and better, but completely different from Rockman. And that's the difference between the two systems, is the Bazaar Rarity system sounds like it's still just going to be the same theme for the item across 5 levels. Whereas you don't have that in other auto battlers. You have to pick up a completely different hero.
You know, it is more recognizable.
I really hope I can get some full versions of these artworks, because that is beautiful. Like come back to the globe. No, go away, Reynad. Like the little footprints, and like there's so many tiny little snowflakes, the little wisp out of the chimney, the light coming out of the windows reflect like on the snow. I need some of this artwork just for myself. Also for things like thumbnails and videos, but mostly for myself, just so I can make a slideshow desktop background of all of these card arts.
Compared to, you know, a boomerang like the middle one here, it's a drastically different look. And that wouldn't have happened without...
Yeah, so this works both ways. There's the very basic design concept of, if thing is weird, that's its thing. If thing is normal, make it weird.
Because the game is going to need 100
everything has its little weird, bizarre touch.
The art team, can do a great job. Even
almost
when there's
everything.
Not time to give a ton of direction on every little thing. And
yeah, like Bootstrap's float. That's interesting.
What I want to be doing is getting you guys into this process, ineffective and expensive. We wanted our game to have the design space that these trading card games did, but without all of the complexity of needing to memorize a million different types of permanents. And
so they have this like to and fro quite often throughout this entire process that, in retrospect, which is what we're doing here, is becoming more and more apparent. So they start off by basically building a deck building game, right? But then they remove a lot of the complexity of that and bring it down to its core, most fun, fundamental set by removing the cards, removing the decks rather, and having this board. But then now they're running out of design space. So they look at bringing in elements of TCGs. They need different timings they can play at. Maybe they need mana, so they ramp up the complexity again, and the game gets bigger and more of a behemoth to manage. And then they bring that back down. They remove elements of that until they have just what they need. And it's this sort of refinement process that I'm starting to spot as we go through these videos, where they just ramp up complexity to fill a need for the game, and then over time they pick it down through just iteration and iteration and conversation and just really good design and development. And they pick it apart to exactly what the Bazaar needs. And it's this whole process that makes me really excited to see what we have at the end.
Look at another great card game, Dominion, the first deck building game ever. They actually
Love Dominion.
Don't have that much design space. And
we have 2 different card games.
On top of the new rules, you can't really make that many unique cards for it. This is a really good way of doing it, by the way.
Items and spells.
Great way of explaining it.
Blue and red. The timings could be when cards come into play, when they leave play, and effects can be things like damage, healing, draw cards, freezing, etc. In the first game, we have 2 card types, 5 colors, 2 timings for the effects to happen, and 500 effects. They put every effect they could possibly think of into this game. This first game has 10,000 possible cards that they can put into it. In order to play this game, a player needs to learn 509 rules. They need to know what the types are, the colors, the timings, and 500 different effects. Now let's say we had a second game that had 10 card types, 10 colors, 10 different timings that the effects could happen, and only 10 effects in the game. When you multiply this out, there's 10,000 possible cards that can be put into this game, but they only have 40 rules that a player has to learn. Game 1.
No, finish writing. I want to freeze on here. Right. So, let's think about where the Bazaar is now in relation to this, because this was an incredibly smart way of telling a non-game dev audience how you add design space. So, you have these sort of core areas of your game. So, you have your type, spell, monster, trap. If we're using Yu-Gi-Oh, I guess. You have your color, red, blue, green. You have your timing, when played, when discarded, when destroyed, etc. And you have your effects, your poison, your freeze, your deal damage, your heal. What is this in the Bazaar currently? So, for our types, we don't really have that many types in the Bazaar right now. Most of the cards are just items. So we'll circle back to that because I think we have different, we don't really have these 4 sets, we have different sets. Color is the most, is the easiest one for me, I guess. Color is class. We have Pygmalion, Vanessa, we have Dooley. I'm trying to remember these off the top of my head, and I should be doing a lot better than this. We have Dooley, we have Stella, we have Jules, and we have the alchemist guy, who I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Mac, I want to say. We're getting 6 classes on release, basically. Well, that genuinely looks like I have 6 fingers. I promise I'm not from one of those places. So we have 6 colors from the base game. Where's my pen and paper? You guys don't need to do this along with me, but we have 6 classes. Bam, 6. I'll put class above that. Timing. Well, we actually kind of have a lot of timing. Because we have the timing is effectively our cooldown, I guess. But these are types of timing, not different numbers of cooldown, right? So the most common timing in the Bazaar is after 7 seconds of charge, after 8 seconds of charge, after 30 seconds of charge, do effect. We also have continuous, so some of the big cooldown ones like open close sign, right? That just happens always. So that's 2. We have when bought, buff an item. We have when sold, sell for more, or buff an item. There must be more. We have after battle, I believe. Is it Vanessa's ship or something else? Or when attack? After attack? We have actually quite a lot. And even if those 2 aren't existing cards that we know of right now, they're definitely possibilities. We have things like Atlas Stone that ramps up in power after attack. Do this. That is a timing. So that, off the top of my head, let's say we have 6 timings. Okay. Effects. This is going to be harder off because we don't really know all of them so far. But we have damage. We have heal. We have cooldown. We have we have so many effects, like lemonade stand increases sorry, is it billboard that increases price of stuff? Like, this is going to be a low end estimate because this is just what I can remember off the top of my head. So what do we go with? Healing, damage, cooldown. Those are the big 3 in battle. off the baseline, but then we also have like burning, freezing, poison, regen. You know what, I'm gonna low end estimate we've got 10 effects. 10 effects. And now we're back to type. Now what we don't have is monster spell, trap, etc. But what we do have is card size. And that's the other one we kind of have to pick up on. And we have 3 card sizes. We have 1 space cards, 2 space cards, and 3 space cards, or small, medium, large. So that gives us 6 times 10, 6 times 6 times 10 times 3, which is 12, 22, 20, 25 rules. So less than what they have there. But that's going to be less design space. And again, this is super low end estimate. There's probably other stuff I'm not considering, although I'm racking my brain and thinking what possibly it could be. I mean, we have like massively different types of events. So maybe events is another one that you bring in, but it doesn't directly correlate. So I'm just going to cheat here and bring up a calculator because I'm a dumb. 6 times 6 times 10. I could do it off the top of my head, but I don't want to. Times 3. So we've got 1,080 cards. This is going to be written way too small for you guys to see. But we have 25 rules and 10,080 cards based off just that. There are almost definitely more effects. There are almost definitely more timings. And there will definitely be more classes. Let's say we add 4 more classes. That's 2 expansions down the line, 4 expansions down the line maybe. Let's say there are 4 more timings. When this card is attacked, that's actually caltrops. That already is a timing. There are purge cards when frozen, etc. So yeah, let's say we could easily get up to 10 timings. There's already 10 effects. Or we could up that a little bit. I mean, there's days I didn't even consider before. There are so many more. So let's just jump that up to 15. We still have 3 sizes. So that becomes a little better. That's now 10 by 10 by 10. 10 by 10 by 15 by the 3 sizes. Now we're up to 4,500 cards. And that's 20, 25, no, 35, 38. So we eventually get to 4,500 cards with 38 things to learn. That doesn't sound too bad to me. I'm actually okay with that.
When we left off, our cards, or items as we call them, had durability numbers that ticked down. The point of this durability decay was to make sure that a player's collection of items didn't grow indefinitely. If the player's collection grew indefinitely, the game just became way too confusing at a certain point, so we had to limit the total number of stuff.
This was a huge problem that took them
numbers also gave us another
4, maybe 5 months to really fix.
Our cards are now permanent objects,
but I'm glad they stuck with it.
Board after you buy them. Our team started by making some black and white mock-ups for our new game board. After looking at a few different black and white sketches,
the monster on the side is wonderful.
Tweaking some sizes and things around, we ended up with a board that we were pretty happy with. And compared to the board that we started out with, this one is just so much more.
And this board looks so similar to what we have now.
Let's take a look at
so similar.
The original board we started out with, which looked more like this. And starting on turn 1,
although the board we have now is supposedly there's a lot of polish coming to it,
cards in your hand,
and obviously board skins.
On the board, 2 monsters here. It was a lot of stuff right out of the gate. So compared to our original game board, over and over and over again, when a player
needed a way to get rid of items.
They couldn't buy any more items. Buying items is like half of the game. You're in a bazaar.
They spent ages trying to figure out how to do this. Like, do items just slide off the board into nothingness?
It sucks to miss out on the.
Obviously, they currently sell them, which is, I think, great. It's a good idea. It's a bazaar. You're there to haggle. You're there to sell as well as buy.
Early builds, having your items since the items that players own,
the implementation they've got now is very solid and very smooth.
This direct replacement system,
it kind of works a little bit like this. only
takes
it
3
won't
slots.
let you buy items that
On
are too
board,
big
there
to fit on
already
your
has
board.
8 out of 10 fill. Lean into toys like Hearthstone has, stuff that you can play
There
with.
are toys, and they're making them very interactive as well. They're going for a lot of. He's a big fan of these sort of two-part toys. The example he uses is a like a little mining laser, where you use a laser and you shoot it like a rock, and then you can click on the little gems to collect them or something. There's also a bubble gun at the moment where you can click to shoot bubbles out, and then you can click to pop the bubbles.
Choosing what toys we put, we'd rather do
Also, the board is currently split into 2 halves, so you're at the bottom half of the board, the 2 toys in the bottom right and bottom left, they're your toys, but the toys in the top right and top left are your opponent's toys, and you can each see the other player's toys and play with them. Make sure to comment, follow, sub, both here, follow us on Twitch here, and also follow us over on YouTube. And that was the making of the Bazaar.